Hey, you are living out loud life with Crystal Ann. I am talking relapse. Relapse. Oh my goodness, it is a dirty word. It's a dirty word that a lot of people don't want to say. Relapse. I will say it. I will say, let's prevent relapse. I will say, oh my goodness, there is so much more to a relapse than a physical use of a substance. Yes, people think, oh my goodness, just because you use that you are in a relapse. Nope. By the time you use, you are so far into the journey of relapse. There are so many things that come before relapse. There is the emotional, there is mental, there is all the old return of feelings and thoughts and the stinking thinking patterns that came before the first time, second time, 100 millionth time of the use. The physical use of a relapse is so much further into the journey. I am trying to normalize relapse. Woo! Why would I normalize relapse? Isn't that the thing that everybody says, no, it never, ever has to happen? Well, that's kind of toxic thinking. That's kind of setting people up to think, no, it will never happen to me. That breeds ground for complacency. What happens when you get complacent? When you get complacent, you like throw it all to the wind. You are just blowing in the wind, as my mom would call it. You're going around the mountain again. That's what happens. God says in his word that we have a vision. We need to write down the vision. We need to create a plan. Why? Why would we create a plan? We create it because we need to know what direction we're going. Yeah, absolutely. Doesn't the word tell us that we need to run a race? Have you ever run a race before? Have you ever trained for a 5K or a big K or whatever K? I have. And what we do is we select the race that we want to run. You know, we go, we check it out. There's like a map to it. We know the course that we're going to run. Could you imagine if at the time that it starts the race that we all just like the big group of us, we all just took off and we were like all over each other? Like we would be smacking into each other. We'd be running into the road. I mean, it would just be chaos. It would be utter chaos. We'd be running a race, but where's the finish line? So a lot of times we're like, do I need a plan? Some people, again, the complacency of it is, I never need one. Well, remember also that pride comes before a fall. That is in pride of thinking, no, that can never happen to me. Do we hope it never does? Absolutely. Hope it never does. But the way that we plan or prevent a relapse is to plan for it. When you plan for it, you've got plans in place when things come. When the stinking thinking comes, you've got reminders, you've got tools, you've got strategies, you've got tactics to get a hold of the thoughts. The thoughts are creating the emotions, and then that is going through feelings and sensations in your body, and you can get caught up in loops. Then when we have those feelings, the feelings that drove us to the substance, for me, it was alcohol. What drove us to that in the first place, when we start feeling that, if we cannot separate the awareness of it, we get caught in the cycle, and the next thing we know, our body can do nothing but protect us, and our brain goes, wait a minute, I got this, I remember, I know how to make us feel better for maybe it's loneliness, maybe it's overwhelm, maybe it's stress, maybe there's so many different emotional things that we used for in the first place. So that whole part of preventing the relapse is making sure that we have in our wellness toolbox, that we have tools, we have strategies, we know what our triggers are, we are on guard. We are set up an awareness of what could potentially set us on a path that we don't want to go, running a race that we don't want to run, going a whole different course and direction. So it is so very important. Guess what it is? It's that time of year. It is that time of year right now where I am approaching, we're like the final days of, if I were counting days, that I would say my 15-year soberversary is coming up. People always ask you, what day are you on? They always ask me, and my answer is always day one. You know why I say day one? Because I know the importance of one day. Has my path, my journey been straight? No, it has not been a linear path. It has looked more like this. Have I had more days of not drinking alcohol than I have? Absolutely. If we did it by a percentage technique, man, I'd have like a really, really high grade. I would have like, I figured it out once upon a time, and I think years ago when I figured it out, it was like an 88%. I don't know, something like that. So if I were getting an academic grade, that would be like a B plus, right? There's more time. I probably have a percentage of an A right now. You know, I think the most triggering part was the reason that on this non-linear journey, when the mental and the emotional starter triggers came up, which eventually put me and a point of picking the bottle back up to solve some emotional dysregulation and dysfunction. So far before that, like I said, it had already been in place. It had already been on the roll. The tools and strategy, had I been really been working the plan, had I not been complacent, maybe my percentage would have been higher. Doesn't matter. But what I do remember is having such stigmatized shame of having to admit, oh my gosh, I got to the point of a physical relapse. Of course, since then I've learned I don't call them necessarily relapses, I call them data points. I'm still gonna celebrate my 15-year soberversary, but I don't call it a soberversary. It's been 15 years since I stepped out of the fog, since I started looking for clarity, since I started going on the path. So I just want to jump on here. You're seeing a lot of posts right now about relapse prevention. It's the time of year. It is the time of year that is very triggering for a lot of us. We have holidays. Holidays, as you've been seeing, started back in Thanksgiving. We're going to be running this through Christmas, and then of course New Year's. We're gonna be running all this. They're triggering times for us. At least it is for me. That's one of them on my plan that I'm always monitoring of, the self-awareness. Anyway, so I am normalizing relapse. I'm normalizing it, and that is a part of our maintenance that we do in our recovery journey. There is a long journey that we run. Remember, we run the race. We run the race to the finish line, but we need to know the map, you have to have the course, and we need to know different things, like if you're in a race. Remember, there's always stopping points for water. There's a time if you need to slow down, if you need to rest. That's all the things that we do when we build a wellness plan. And we put the plan in place, and you've got to work the plan. That's what you do. It is checking in, it's accountability, it's all kinds of things. Anyway, just encouraging everybody out there today that if you are in a place that you think, hey, maybe I'm in the start of an emotional or a mental relapse, hey, you don't have to get to the physical. You can stop, you can ask for help, go to your emotional support group, get back into the things that you did in the very beginning, get back to the basics, start working that. And remember, we are whole beings, so it's all the different parts that you gotta work. You gotta remember, it had to do with your mind. It had to do with the feelings in your mind. It was the mental, you had to renew yourself in it. You had to get in your social groups. You needed to be around like-minded people that were encouraging you to the race that you wanted to run on that path and direction. There's all the fun things that we do. Remember, exercise. We got ERIE. We have our intentional release of emotional energy. We have to process all of the energy that is in us. What about sleep? How are you doing? Check your sleep. Hygiene. Are you doing the things that you did before? We need sleep. That is the preventative care, our time that our body restores us so that we can move on, and a huge mood regulator. And remember, halto, hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and overwhelmed. Those are things that we want to be aware of. So just encouraging you today, encouraging you to go, hey, let's normalize this. Let's not be complacent. Let's focus forward and saying, I'm on guard. I care enough, I love me enough to work a plan and to stick with that plan and to build my toolbox so that I have the strategies and the techniques to be aware when triggers and the stresses of life come upon me, because I am worth it. I'm so worth it. Encouraging you today, reminding you, you are worth it.